that seeds can be monocotyledonous and dicotyledonous. If they are monocotyledonous, they are having only one cotyledon. Cotyledon is the reserve food material which is present in the seed for the developing embryo. And this embryo is being nourished by the cotyledon. And if two cotyledons are present, then it is called dicotyledon. And today we are going to see the structure of the seed. If we see the structure of the seed coat is there, which is the protective covering surrounding the seed. And it is called seed coat. Now this seed coat is formed by the integuments. Do you remember the structure of the ovule when we were discussing ovule? We discussed that there are layers of integuments surrounding the embryo sac. Do you remember?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So these integuments of ovule, they harden and they form a tough protective coat around seed. And this is called seed coat. Now the seed coat is to protect the seed. The second structure which is found on seed is seed core. Now the seed core is the micropyle remains. Micropyle and you know micropylar and micropyle was there, and this micropyle remain as a small pore in the seed, and this is called seed pore. This pore helps or this pore facilitates the entry of oxygen and water into the seed during germination. Water and oxygen, water and air are the essential requirements of the seed for germination. So this oxygen and water is provided to the germinating seed through this pore. So this micropyle, it remains as a small pore in the seed, and this is called seed pore. Now this pore is to facilitate the entry of oxygen and air and water into the seed during germination. So when the seed is germinating, these things are required by the seed, and that's why this pore is there to provide oxygen and water to the germinating seed. Then you will come across another term that is called seed dormancy. Now what is seed dormancy? Dormancy actually is if you see the dictionary meaning of dormancy, it is the inactive phase. And seed dormancy is also the inactive phase of the seed. As the seed matures, its water content is reduced and seed becomes relatively dry. It remains only 10 to 15% of moisture is remain inside the seed and rest is dried up. And the general metabolic activity of the embryo also slows down. The embryo which is present in the seed, the metabolic activity of this embryo slows down. The seed becomes dry and the embryo enters into a state of inactivity. And the embryo enters into a state of inactivity, and this state of inactivity is called seed dormancy. This state of inactivity is called seed dormancy. Now this state, this inactive state persists, it remains till the favorable conditions arrive to facilitate seed germination. What are the favorable conditions for the seed to germinate? The right kind of the adequate quantity of water, air, and the right type of temperature, the suitable temperature. So when these favorable conditions arrive or these favorable conditions are available, then the seed will start germinating. Till then, the seed remains in the inactive state, and this is called seed dormancy. We will see the advantages of seed dormancy, because seed dormancy is very, very advantageous to us. What seeds we are eating is all because of the dormancy. Now, seed germination. Now, germination happens when the favorable conditions, as I told you, what are the favorable conditions? What are the requirements for the seed to germinate? Adequate moisture, that means the water should be there, oxygen, and suitable temperature. These things should be available for the seed to germinate. So, when favorable conditions, that is adequate moisture, oxygen, and suitable temperature are available, the seed germinates. And what do you mean by seed germinates? The seed germinates means it gives rise to sprouts. And what are these sprouts? The plumule and radicle. Plumule is future stem and shoot, and radicle is future root. Shoot is the term which is given to all the parts of the plant which are above the surface of the earth, which grow above the surface. They are negatively geotropic. This is negatively geotropic growth. And radicle is the root and its branches which grow towards the gravity. That means below the surface of the earth, inside the soil, and they are positively geotropic. So this was the remaining portion of the seed. Now we will move to fruits. Okay. Now what are fruits? Ovules develop into seeds and ovary develops into fruit. So the ovary of the flower develops into fruit. Once the fertilization is complete, the embryo, the development of embryo starts, then the petals, sepals, all these things shed down, the androecium and this shed down, and the ovary get converted into fruits. This you must have observed. It's a natural phenomena that first fruits come, flowers come on the plant, and then after some time the flowers shed down and fruits come. So these fruits are ovary of the flower. Now dispersal mechanism. What is dispersal mechanism? These seeds have to be dispersed to different areas. Then only they can grow, and this is the natural mechanism, natural phenomena which is happening in the nature. The seeds fall down because they are heavy, the fruit is heavy, the seeds fall down and the fruit falls down, and the seeds, they grow on their own. And there are many agents that helps in the dispersal of seeds. For example, same the pollinating agents like through wind, water, animals, even the human beings, everybody is helping in the dispersal of seeds. So these are called dispersal mechanisms. And these dispersal mechanisms carry seeds to new environments. to reduce competition and promote colonization. Now, what is colonization? Colonization is when somebody is moving to a new place. Clear? So, these are called dispersal mechanisms which carry seeds to new environments to reduce competition. Why competition? Because if there are so many plants, new plantlets at one place, there would be competition for the sunlight, for the nutrients, the minerals which they are getting from the soil and the air also. So that's why to reduce this competition, the dispersal mechanism are working in the nature. And to promote colonization. Colonization is when someone or some organism, they are moving from their old place to a new place. When they are going to a new place and they are habitating into a new environment, that is called colonization. So this also reduced this also reduced the competition in the nature, because the seeds are dispersed to a new environment, new place where they can grow properly without competition or less competition. Now, fruits are what? Fruits are ripened ovaries. When the ovaries are ripe, they are called fruits. So, fruits are ripened ovaries which promote the dispersal of seeds. Fruits have adaptations that harness energy from wind, water, drying, or animals. So, these are the different agents which help in the dispersal mechanisms to disperse seeds. Fruits play an important role in the seed dispersal of many plant species. In dehiscent fruits are mainly the fruits which are dry and which burst, such as poppy capsules. The seeds are usually dispersed directly from the fruits. When the fruit dehiscence or the burst open, the seeds are directly dispersed. And they remain on the plant only. In fleshy or indehiscent, the other fruits are fleshy, like guava, oranges, they are fleshy fruits. So in fleshy fruits, the seeds and fruits are commonly moved away from the parent plant together. That means the fruit is also removed from the plant and the seeds are dispersed. In many plants such as grasses and lettuce, the outer integument and the ovary wall are completely fused. So seed and fruit form one entity. Have you understood this? Here you will not find a seed and fruit as different entities, because the integument is completely fused with the ovary. So that's why it is one entity, as one thing. Such seeds and fruits can logically be described together as dispersal units. They are called dispersal units because they are together. The next term is pericarp. It is the wall of the ovary that develops into the outer covering of the fruit. Pericarp is the wall of the ovary. That means the covering. And this covers the fruit. So pericarp means the covering of the fruit. Now fruits can be divided into fleshy and dry, as I told you, dehiscent and non-dehiscent. Fleshy is they have flesh, such as guava, orange, mango, and some are dry, such as groundnut, mustard. The next type of classification of fruits is true and false fruits. true fruits are the fruits which develop from the ovary, because we know that in general most of the fruits are developed from the ovary. So those fruits who have developed from the ovary, because ovary gets converted into fruit, these fruits are called true fruits. Now in false means they are not true. In false fruits, the thalamus, do you remember thalamus? Structure or basal structure of the flower?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So in false fruits, this thalamus also contribute in the formation of fruit. That means the fruit is formed by ovary as well as thalamus. So that fruit is called false fruit. Now here the fruit is formed. The thalamus also contributes in the formation of fruit. Example is apple, strawberry, cashew. These are the examples of false fruits. These are the examples of false fruits. So this is very important 2-mark question. Difference between true and false fruits. Type of fruits are parthenocarpic fruits. Normally, when the fruit develops, the fertilization has taken place. In the embryo sac, the male gamete and the female gamete, they fuse. Both are haploid. They become diploid zygote, and from that diploid zygote, the embryo develops. So that is the normal process. That is the natural phenomena. But in some cases, these fruits develop without fertilization. Now, how is that possible? That means in these fruits, the seeds will not be formed. They develop without fertilization. So no fusion of male and female gamete takes place. Fruits develop without fertilization and they are called parthenocarpic fruits. They are
Ma'am, they
called,
are seedless.
come again?
Ma'am, they are seedless.
They are seedless, yes. Because seeds are what? Seeds is the embryo, and embryo is what? Developed from the zygote. And zygote is what? Zygote is the result of fusion of male gamete and female gamete. And that is called fertilization. And if the fertilization has not taken place inside the embryo sac, what would be the result? The seed will not be formed. So these fruits which develop, we'll see how they develop. So when they develop without fertilization, they are called parthenocarpic fruits. Example is banana. Now, how this parthenocarpy can be introduced or can be induced? And this can be induced in a plant through application of growth hormones. Why should we induce parthenocarpy? To get seedless fruits. Parthenocarpy is induced in the plants to get seedless. You are getting seedless grapes. You are getting seedless bananas. You are getting seedless papayas these days. So that is parthenocarpy. And that can be induced through the application of growth hormones. Parthenocarpic fruits are seedless. Now, parthenocarpic fruits, pineapple, banana, cucumber, grape, watermelon, orange, grapefruit, pear, fig are some examples of parthenocarpy. These develop without fertilization and are often seedless. The advantages of seeds to angiosperms. Now, what are the processes which are involved in the formation of seed? Pollination. First, the male gamete has to be transferred from flower to, the pollen has to be transferred from one flower to another or the same, that is pollination. And after that, once the male gamete reaches the embryo sac, there is fusion of male gamete with the female gamete, that is fertilization. So both these processes, the pollination and fertilization, are independent of water. Water, in certain cases, the pollination is depending on water, and in some cases the fertilization also depends on water. But in most of the cases, these two processes, they are independent of water. So the surety of formation of seed is higher. The seeds are adapted for different dispersal strategies to new habitats. As I told you, that there are different dispersal mechanisms which help the seeds to get dispersed to different habitats, that is colonization, to reduce the competition and they can grow properly. The hard seed coat provides protection to the young embryo during dormancy. The seed coat is also advantageous to the seed because it is providing the protection to the young embryo during dormancy. Now,
Ma'am, which type of protection is provided?
from everything, because when the covering is there, it is giving protection from the weather conditions, climatic conditions. It can giving protection from the salinity, soil salinity conditions, everything. Because once the protective covering is present, the hard covering is present, it gives protection from everything. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Now, seeds are the products of sexual reproduction, because seeds can be formed only when there is sexual reproduction. And what is sexual reproduction? Only when there is mixing of genetic material of male gamete and female gamete. So they generate new genetic combinations. So seeds are the new genetic combination arising by the fusion of genetic material of male gamete and genetic material of female gamete. And this will lead to the genetic variation. And this genetic variation is for the better survival of the plant. So seeds are advantageous in this way also, because they are the products of sexual reproduction and they help in the genetic variation. Now, dehydration and dormancy. As I told you, the seed dehydrates and only 10 to 15% of the moisture remains with it. Rest it dries up. So this dehydration and dormancy of mature seeds are crucial for their storage and use as food. What food we are having, the grains, the cereals, the pulses, they all are seeds. And we can store them and we can use them as food because they are in the dormancy state and they have been dehydrated. So we can use them throughout the year. And seeds also help farmer to raise crop in the next season. Seeds, because the seeds are in the dormant stage, they are dried, they can be stored, and that's why the farmer can use the seed to grow the crop in the next season. The viability. What is viability? Viability term you have earlier also you have studied. the viability of the pollen. So viability is what? The period where the seed remains alive after dispersal. Once the seed has been dispersed from the plant, parent plant, till what period it remains viable, till it remains alive. That is called the viability. And this varies from seed to seed. Some seeds lose their viability after a few months, whereas some live for several years, even for hundreds of years. It is called seed viability. Viability is the period where the seed remains alive after dispersal from the parent plant. And this viability period is different for different kind of seeds. In some it is few months, in some it is few years also, and in some it is hundreds and hundreds of years. The oldest which we have discovered till now is the lupin. This lupine is the oldest seed. The biological name is Lupinus arcticus. This was found from Arctic tundra and it was germinated and flowered after an estimated record of 10,000 years of dormancy. That means this seed was lying dormant for 10,000 years and it was found from Arctic tundra. It was excavated from. And then when it was grown, it flowered and it was grown, germinated and flowered after 10,000 years of dormancy. So this is also 1 mark question, important 1 mark question, the oldest seed. Then there is recent record of date palm. Date palm is also 2,000 years old. Viable seed of date palm, which is viable after 2,000 years. The biological name is Phoenix dactylifera. Biological name of date palm is Phoenix dactylifera. So now can you imagine the enormous reproductive capacity of flowering plants? Because each plant is having many flowers. Each flower is having ovary. The many ovary can have many ovules. And then ovule is having embryo sac. One fruit is containing many seeds. So there is enormous capacity of reproduction with the flowering plants. The nature has ensured that the reproductive capacity of these flowering plants is enormous because one fruit contains many seeds, may contain many seeds, one ovary may contain many ovules. Now there are 2 important terms at the end of this chapter. These are apomixis and polyembryony. Now what is apomixis? Apomixis is a special mechanism to produce seeds without fertilization. Now till now we were saying that when the fertilization is not taking place, the seeds cannot be produced. But as I always tell you that biology is signs of exception. So there is enormous chances of exceptions in nature, and this apomixis is example of that. Here the seeds are produced without fertilization. It's like a form of asexual reproduction. Now, how seeds are formed without fertilization, we will see. It is a form of asexual reproduction that mimics. Mimics, you understand? Mimicry. Mimicry, we have mime, no, in our annual function. So what is that? They enact like that. That is called mimicry. Once you are copying someone, that is mimicry. So it is a form of asexual reproduction that mimics sexual reproduction. That means they are copying the sexual reproduction. They are mimicry. They are doing the mimicry of sexual reproduction. Now there are several ways by which the apomictic seeds can be developed. There are several ways by which the apomictic seeds can be developed. One is when the diploid egg. Now, egg is normally haploid in nature. Why? Because egg is formed. Why egg is haploid in nature? Because egg is formed by meiosis cell division, which is a reductional cell division, and that's why egg is haploid in nature. But here, in some cases, the egg will not, and the cell will not undergo meiosis cell division, and it will form diploid egg. The diploid egg is formed without reduction division, and this develops into an embryo without fertilization. The otherwise egg is haploid, and then it unites with the male gamete, which is also haploid, and they produce diploid embryo. Whereas here what happens, the diploid egg is formed, which is formed without undergoing meiosis cell division, and it develops into embryo without fertilization. This is one type, one way of developing apomictic seeds. The another way is some of the nucellar cells. Nucellus, you remember? The cells which are surrounding the embryo sac. Now, some of the nucellar cells surrounding the embryo sac, they start dividing. They protrude. Protrude means they go inside into the embryo sac. They protrude into embryo sac and they develop into embryos. Here, each ovule contains many embryos. What will happen? The nucellus is dividing and entering into embryo sac. And what happened? There will be many embryos inside the embryo sac. And this condition is called polyembryony. Example is this polyembryony you can find in citrus varieties. So how can we define polyembryony? It is a condition of occurrence of more than one embryo in a seed. When more than one embryo, normally in one seed, one embryo is present. But if there is one seed which is having many embryos, it is called polyembryony. And this happens when the nucellar cells, they protrude into the embryo sac, they divide, protrude into the embryo sac and grow into embryos. Any doubts? Someone was asking something in between.
Polyembryonic.
Polyembryony. Okay. What is polyembryony? Poly means many and embryony, embryo means embryo. So when there are many embryos inside a seed, that condition is called polyembryony. Okay. Now, for this, I'll tell you a very good example which you can see. Lemons are there. Lemon seed.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
can open the lemon seed, or you can open orange seed and see. You will find many embryos. You can see the different embryos. That is called polyembryony. Now, how this polyembryony has resulted? It is because when the nucellus are the cells which are covering the embryo sac. Now, this nucellus is protruding into the embryo sac. It goes inside the embryo sac and forms the embryos. So one embryo is there and there are many other embryos coming. So that results in the polyembryony. And this polyembryony, another is apomixis. What is that? Where the seed is produced without the fertilization. When the seed is, how it is producing without the fertilization? Because the fertilization is not taking place. The male gamete is not uniting with the female gamete. The female gamete is not haploid. The female gamete is diploid in some cases, and that grows into the seed. In another case, this polyembryony can happen, where the nucellus cells, they protrude into the embryo sac and then they form many embryos. Seeds or grapes without seeds?
Ma'am, grapes without seeds.
Without seeds. So people like without seeds variety. So it is, that's why commercially produced for the benefit, for the profit. Or you will find seedless variety more expensive than seed variety. Yeah. So if you get a watermelon without seeds, it would be very easy for you to eat it, no? So that is the advantage. That's why. And because farmers, the horticulturists, they are getting more price for the seedless variety, they produce seedless variety. Clear?
Yes.
Today the portion is slightly long. That's why I thought I'll see your faces before continuing. Okay, let me continue it. Only small portion is left. So we were discussing about the apomixis. Apomixing is what? Apomixis is the special mechanism to produce seeds without fertilization. It is a form of asexual reproduction only that mimics sexual reproduction. And there are several ways of developing apomictic seeds. The diploid egg is formed without reductional division, that is meiosis, and it develops into embryo without fertilization. Some of the nuclear cells, this is another way of producing apomixis or developing apomictic seeds. The nuclear cells surrounding the embryo sac start dividing. They protrude into embryo sac and develop into embryos. So here each ovule contains many embryos. And the example is citrus variety, and this condition is called polyembryony. Now, economic advantage of apomictic seeds. What is the economic? Why apomictic seeds? Do they have any advantage? The seeds which are produced without fertilization, do they have any advantage or not? Yes, they are having advantage. And advantage is what? That if, do you remember that the process of breeding, hybridization is done by the plant breeders to get the good quality?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what is happening in the hybridization?
Yes, ma'am.
We are the plant breeder has to select plants of desired qualities, crossbreed them, and then develop the seeds. है ना? Then check the seeds. So it is a time-consuming process. And what happens once these hybrid seeds are ready? These hybrid seeds will give the produce the required progeny only for one season, because the next season the required progeny may result into segregated of the seeds, may or may not give you the desired quality. So there is no surety. But if these hybrids are made into apomictic, then there is no segregation of characters in hybrid progeny. So the farmer can keep these hybrid seeds year after year, and he does not have to buy hybrid seeds every year. Otherwise, the farmer has to buy hybrid seeds every year to ensure that he is getting good quality of plants. But if the seeds are apomictic, then there is no need of buying, because apomictic seeds are what? It's like asexual reproduction. There will be no genetic difference. The genetic similarity is there of the plant, parent plant and the progeny. So that's why if the apomictic seeds are sown, the result would be the same. So if hybrids are made into apomictic, we can get the desired quality in our plant year after year. It is that big economic advantage for farmers. Otherwise, if you have prepared a hybrid, a plant, and from that hybrid plant you have developed seeds, and these seeds, when they are commercially transported to places for use, they are not giving the surety that season after season they will be giving all the desired qualities. Clear? So this is the main advantage of developing apomic seeds. Dravita was telling me now why to produce. Dravita, see, this is the banana with seeds and this is the banana without seeds. This is tomato with seeds. This is without seeds. I'll show you another diagram also.
Ma'am, which one is better?
This is papaya without seeds. Acha, I'll show you your NCERT diagram also. Can you see these diagrams?
Yes, ma'am.
This is apple.
Yes, ma'am.
Apple is false fruit. Why it is false fruit? Because here the thalamus is also contributing in the formation of fruit. So this is the ovary and this is the thalamus. So the portion which we eat is thalamus. And here you can find 3 coverings. Otherwise, only pericarp is there. Here you can find the mesocarp and endocarp. 3 layers. This is thalamus. This is a strawberry. Strawberry also what we eat is thalamus. And with this is, these are the seeds. Acini. These are the seeds which are embedded in the pits. Clear? So these are false fruits because the thalamus is also contributing in the formation of fruit. So today we have completed this chapter. You go through the chapter, prepare nicely, and then if there is any doubt, ask me tomorrow.